You need to be pickier on who you actually want to be in a committed relationship with. I don't know why it's not talked about as much, but relationship, like a serious committed relationships, I'm not talking about little dates here and there, but committed relationships will affect your life more than almost anything else that you really think about. Based off who you choose to date, your life can go from being amazing and super awesome to being so trash and lame and being like, oh God, I hate my life. I'm sure you probably have a friend or a couple, relatives or somebody that you know where they're either in a good relationship and you're like, dang, dude, I really want that. Look at them. They're so happy together. It seems like it works. Their life seems amazing. Probably also have seen the couples where it looks like either the guy or the girl are just miserable, or sometimes both. You can see it in their face. You can see it in their whole soul. It just looks so gloomy and sad. If you have a bunch of bad relationships back to back, or you're constantly getting into this cycle of it, you need to have higher standards for yourself. Be very selective and very picky on who you actually choose to get into a serious relationship with. I'm sure you've probably seen the statistic. Almost 50% of all marriages end in divorce. I feel that a lot of it has to do with people just aren't that picky with who they choose. They'll just settle for convenience. A lot of people nowadays, they date for convenience. They date for what's easiest. And a lot of people, they also struggle very hard to be by themselves. They feel, they get FOMO, fear of missing out on, cute dates. They don't want to be the only friend that's single. That's something that a lot of people struggle with, fear getting older and staying lonely. So especially if you're not someone that's very self-assured and confident, a lot of the times you'll try to latch onto someone, and whether it's the person you want or not, you end up choosing a trash partner. Yeah, make sure you don't date for convenience. You're not going to be able to date the highest quality of people because you're dating for convenience. You're dating for what's easiest to find, easiest to maintain. You get the person you truly want, you know what I mean? And you're never ever going to get someone that fits all of your standards, but dating by convenience, you're pretty much just choosing and getting whatever you can. It's like time when you're actually choosing a partner, make sure that your values align. You know what I mean? You want to date someone that is going to complement your life, not be on the complete other spectrum. Sometimes a little bit of polarity is good. But for example, if you are someone that doesn't really enjoy going to bars or clubs and you date someone that does go to bars and clubs, you know what I mean? It's clashing right there, because now it's just a very heavy clash and it creates a lot of tension. Vice versa, maybe you're someone that likes to go out and party and have fun, or maybe you're someone that likes to do extreme sports, whatever the case may be, and the other person's lifestyle is insanely different. You're able to make it work, but chances are you're probably just settling because it's more convenient. You just met them, whatever, end up paying the price for it later down the line once you're older and you're like, frick, this sucks. Like I'm tired of this. I don't want him to do this, or I don't want her to do this. And it's like, no, you guys weren't compatible from the beginning. Don't try to change their behavior, or don't try to force them to do whatever you want because you weren't able to have higher standards and go for someone that you were compatible with. Don't try to force them to change their lifestyle because of something you did. And this is something I had to learn when I was younger. I was younger, so obviously I didn't know how anything worked, but I would try to, when I was in a relationship with someone, instead of dating someone that I was compatible with, I would try to make them do or live a life that I wanted to live, and that's just not right. So make sure you don't do that, because it will always revert back to their baseline, and by doing this, you're just delaying the problem and causing a lot of unnecessary tension. Trust me, on the compatibility and the values, it's a lot more important than worrying about finding someone that's necessarily super hot, whether you're into guys or girls, whatever you like. Simply looking off the looks and that being your standard, come on, dude, that's like a recipe for disaster. Like, it's so shallow. Now, don't get me wrong, looks are super important. One that says that looks aren't important is lying to you. Huge thing in relationships is attraction. You have to physically be attracted. It's important. Like, I'm sure you've probably heard people where whether it's a girl, they'll say like, he has to be 6 foot, yada, yada, yada. Or the guys, they'll say, bro, she's got to be this thick. She's at least this thick. She's got to have like a super pretty face, slim, yada, yada, yada. It's important to a degree. But what's more important is the actual values and compatibility that you have. Values, you also want someone that has similar values, politically, spiritually, mentally, all that good stuff. You don't want to date someone, for example, like let's say I'm going out with a girl and I want to tip the waitress a good amount because, she's a hard worker and some goodness to the world. Someone that gets mad at you or gets jealous or is asking you, why are you tipping so much? Things like that. Obviously, you want to look at that kind of stuff and be like, okay, I'd rather not date someone like that rather than focus on superficial things that are not as important. Maybe you really want to have a family and your partner doesn't want to have a family. Like that, you want to pay attention to those things because those are the things that clash a lot more than, oh, her teeth are too small. It looks kind of weird. Or he's only 5'11". Like, I only date 6 foot and plus. You know what I mean? Or like, oh, she's kind of flat type thing. Like all those things, pretty superficial for the most part. I mean, yeah, some attraction matters, like I mentioned, but you want to focus on the core values and compatibility. A lot of the times, like having high standards and actually following by those standards, you get a better partner. I'll explain to you what happens a lot of the times. It's super lame. People have a certain standard of who they want, whether it's physically, value, and all that other stuff. Obviously, if you have a very high standard, it's going to be a lot harder to find that person because you have higher standards. Not everyone's going to fit it. And what people do is usually they'll get into a relationship, go on a couple dates, and then slowly they'll start to bringing down their actual standards. Start to cope and make excuses, be like, oh, like, I don't actually care that much about that. Like, I don't care that, like, she does this, or I don't care that he's like this, yada, yada, yada. Next thing you know, you've settled. You settled for someone that was very convenient or maybe not fitting your standards. And because you've settled, it's like, okay, well, now you have a trash partner. This is why your life is starting to suck now, because you literally settled all your standards instead of being picky and doing the hard thing, which is waiting and trying to look for the right person. And now your life sucks. So be careful of that and be wary because that happens very often. Like, just look around and you're going to start seeing it. You're going to be like, dang, I do notice that, like, my mom settled for like a bad husband, or my dad settled for a bad wife, or it's like your friend, she's dating a doofus, you know what I mean? So keep that in mind. I like to use, or something that's going to help picture that in your mind, is think about it this way. I'm going to compare a relationship to going to a record shop and you're looking for a specific record. Go into the record shop for a very specific one. Like, let's say you're looking for a very specific Michael Jackson record. Let's say they're all out of stock. What would normally do is you'd either come back another day, keep looking, or go to a different shop and keep looking. You wouldn't just say, dang, they don't have the Michael Jackson record, I guess I'm gonna get this Jake Paul album. Or do that for something as insignificant as a vinyl record. For some reason you think that's fine, and then you do it with someone that's literally gonna affect the rest of your life. You're like, whatever. Wouldn't even do that for a vinyl record, you know what I mean? Just an analogy for you. So keep that in mind when actually choosing a partner and be like, dang, I pay more attention to actual like records and things that I like and care about that are just like material, and I'm not even paying that much attention to a relationship, which is someone I'm gonna have to spend the rest of my life with. I mean, you can always divorce or whatever and leave them, but it's like a huge hassle. You're spending a huge chunk of time, energy, and things get messy. Peep game, lock in. This is why you'll sometimes see a lot of your friends, like, dude, no offense, but you guys are dating some like trash people. It's like, seriously, this is who you're dating? A lot of the times people have such low standards where it's like, they'll flex like the most basic stuff. They'll be like, when he doesn't abuse you, or like, they'll flex. They're like, dude, she's the best. Like, she doesn't even cheat on me or do anything. I'm like, well, I sure hope she doesn't cheat on you. Like, that should be like just a base, like standard. Like, are you like normally taking cheating? It's like, oh yeah, like he treats me good. Trust me. Like, I have it so good now. Like, he doesn't physically abuse me. He doesn't like, yada, yada, yada. I'm like, great. He's like a normal human being now. Like, I hope that was your standard normally, but yeah, I mean, it seems like you guys are dating trash cans. The last thing I can say is just don't ignore the red flags when you're actually choosing a partner. But a lot of times people do. It's the same thing as like lowering your standards, you know what I mean? You see the red flags and they start off very small. You're like, whoa, okay, he yelled at me. Oh, okay, she's not cool with me talking to anyone. Interesting. Then it just slowly compounds over time. And since you didn't have this base standard, weren't like, nah, I'm good. Like, you're really cool. I like you, but I don't think we're going to work out. Hope the best for you, but I just don't want to date you. Instead of doing something like that, people will just stay and they'll start making excuses. and then the red flags start to become like more and more and more apparent. So it's like, listen to the red flags because, you know, they lead you to kind of like what's inside of the person. You know what I mean? Like once you see a red flag, it's like, it's a red flag for a reason. Red flags aren't as big as others. Sometimes if they really truly are willing to change their red flags, that's great. Most of the time they're not. And instead, actually just leaving because you deserve better, stay and you make excuses for the red flags. It's super lame, but it's very common. Actually listening to what I just said and following these things, having high standards, making sure your values actually match, allowing disrespect. Like you can't allow disrespect in any area, whether it's your boss, friends, like whatever you want. Anytime you allow something, it becomes your reality. To deflect things or allow them. Anytime you allow someone to, you know, treat you badly, cheat on you, all these things, like they're allowed to do that, but it's up to you whether you remove yourself from that area. You can talk and say, yo, I do not like this. Do it again. Respectful, they'll listen. They'll be like, okay, cool. I get it. My bad. But if they're not, then remove yourself from the situation and that's no longer in your reality. So it's the same thing. You're dating trash cans. I'm not going to tolerate this. I deserve better. So it's like, peace. You remove yourself from that situation and that is no longer in your reality. That's no longer your life. Now you can actually go out and look for better. There's a couple billion people on this planet. There's people out there that are good and that are perfect for you. Just do the effort of going and finding them rather than, you know, wasting all this time on someone that is a trash can for you. They're trash for you. They're not great. But it really just depends if you want quality for your life or if you don't want quality for your life.